In this video, I want to share with you some tips to avoid the overload of toys during the holiday season. So let's get started. The first thing that I do with my family during the holidays is that I create a wish list for both my kids of what they would like to receive for Christmas. Now, when they were little, I would just pick whatever I felt that was appropriate and what most fit my family's beliefs on toys and what I wanted them to receive, and I would make an Amazon wish list and send it out to family. Now that my daughter is 5 years old, then we go through this list somewhat together. Usually I first take a look at what is she into? What is she actually playing with at the moment, right? Because we can go and see a toy that you saw maybe on Instagram or something that you think like, oh, it's so cute. But if your child isn't really into it, there's really no point on adding it to a wish list for something that your child isn't going to play with. And the thing with sending wish lists to family is that family wants to make sure that what they give your children is something that the child is going to be excited about, because they'll start seeing if you put things on the wish list that they give to the children and the child is not so excited about the toys that they receive. So you want to make sure that you are taking a look at your child and really observe what they're playing with. So for example, I realized that my daughter is really into pretend play and a lot of changing her clothes and dressing up. And so I wanted to make sure that that list reflected that. That was something that I knew that she was going to be excited to open and to get on Christmas, and it was also something that she was going to use for the rest of the year. The other thing that I would add with the wish list is that not every time does my family or the people that I send this list to stick to the list. I think that during the holidays they kind of like to use it as a guide or maybe to get something from the list and then go ahead and buy whatever they were planning to buy for my kids anyway. So I just use it as a guide. This is something that I truly believe that my kids will enjoy and love and play with, and that I'm okay with bringing into our home. But then at the same time, I just know that during the holidays, my family is planning to get them other things. So I keep that in mind, as in it would be great to have these things that I made on this list. And I try not to make it too long. I always try to include books into this list, which my family does buy for the kids, so I'm really thankful for that. So I always add in books that I think they're going to use, and I try to add things that aren't necessarily toys all the time. So as I said, with my daughter, she's really into pretend play, so I looked into some options for some dress ups, some scarves that I knew that she was going to love, some bows for her hair, something that I know that she's going to be so excited to open, but isn't actually necessarily a toy. The next tip that I would give you to avoid overload of toys during Christmas or the holiday season is to do a clean before Christmas. Do a toy clean or a toy declutter or a toy call during right before the holidays. I think this is a great time, even better than after, because your house is already clean to receive new things. I find that if you already have a bunch of stuff to then receive a bunch of toys and receive a bunch of stuff during the holidays can be really overwhelming, and trying to declutter that after it can take a lot of your mental time. So before the holidays, I usually try to do it in the beginning of December, that I go through my kids' toys and I see, okay, what is not being played with. I go ahead and I make a toy declutter. I put some toys away. I don't necessarily give them out yet because I just want to make sure that my kids aren't actually playing with those toys. So I go ahead, I declutter a bit. I look for repeats or anything that's broken or anything that just needs to get out of the house because it has repeats or is broken, or my kids just don't even know that it's in the house. And I go ahead and I put that away. And then during Christmas, usually it feels so much better to bring in new toys when we've already done a declutter. And you can actually, if you're okay with this, you can actually do it very, very close to Christmas time, or very, very close before your children receive new toys, so that they will be mostly focused on the new things that they've received. And it makes it a little bit easier for those older toys that aren't being played with to leave the house. The next tip that I want to give you, and it's kind of an unpopular one, I feel like usually I get a bit of pushback online, but I consider not buying your children gifts. Now, this is something that you just have to look at your family. In our family, my family buys our kids a ton of toys. So there have been years where we just felt like it was pointless to buy our kids even extra things on top of the things that they were already receiving from family. This isn't something that we necessarily do every year. For example, last year we really wanted to get our kids bikes and a bike and a scooter, and we knew that those were going to be higher price tag things that probably they weren't going to receive from family. So we decided to buy that for our kids. But if we don't have those gifts that we specifically want to get for our kids that we see that would be helpful, we usually try to skip it and say, well, this year we're just not going to buy our kids toys from us. We usually spend Christmas with family at somebody else's house, so they will usually have Christmas gifts already at the tree that aren't necessarily from us. So that's something that we also, if we don't see a need, we definitely can skip. When we had babies, when my children were under 2 years old, we definitely did not buy them gifts for Christmas because we just didn't feel like it was necessary, and they did receive gifts from friends and family. So yeah, so I know that this is kind of the unpopular opinion, but it's something that if you are okay with doing, and if you see that your children are already receiving things from other people and you don't necessarily feel like you have to buy them anything, I would recommend to don't. Just allow other friends and family to give them gifts, and that's okay. Another thing that you can propose to family is to do a communal gift. So instead of everybody buying them separate things, you can all come together and buy each child one thing. So like I said, if you are planning to buy your child a bike and everybody wants to chip in to make sure that that is the gift that the family gives the child, that's another option. That if your family is okay with it, you can minimize the amount of toys that they receive if everybody is okay with giving them a bigger ticket gift that everybody chips in for. And the last tip that I would give you to avoid toy clutter during the holidays is to ask your family or you yourself give your children art supplies. During the winter season, you can remind your family that you're probably going to be indoors a lot, and it would be nice to have something for the kids to do at home. It can be Play-Doh, it can be paint, it can be markers, anything that is going to be an activity to do indoors. That's a great gift to give children that is not necessarily toys, and that has so many benefits to child development and creativity. And so anything that you can see that your children are into, it's such a great thing to add during the holidays, to say this is not necessarily toys, and it will give them something to do during those long winter months and everything that's going on in the world right now. So that's it for all the tips that I have for the holidays and avoiding toy clutter during the holidays. I know this season can be really stressful, but something that I have been doing with my kids to instill some of these things that I'm talking about is to talk about other reasons why we celebrate the holidays and really, really focus on those. And in the mornings, I have been talking to my kids about our faith and why we celebrate Christmas, and also other things that we can do that are fun in the holiday season. Seeing lights outside and going to walk around and see lights in the neighborhood and decorations. That's another thing that we've been doing that isn't really focused on gifts. Another thing that we can talk about are the foods that we're preparing, making Christmas cookies, anything that really shows children that this isn't necessarily all about toys, all about gifts. It isn't, Christmas doesn't have to be solely focused on that. And of course, I know that my children, especially as they're getting older, they're thinking about their gifts and that special time that they're gonna when they're gonna open gifts. But I think it's important to share with our children just the things that we do during the holidays, the gathering with family, being together, all of these things that also make up the holidays that are very, very special and can be really special for our children. I really hope you found some of these helpful. Let me know if you have any questions, and just in case you are not following me on Instagram, I'm gonna leave my handle right here. I talk a lot about minimalism and Montessori with the family, so make sure you check that out. And thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you next time.